Hello, so this is a video about question C on the sample FRQs from Unit 4. And I have to say, I apologize for my severe congestion at the moment. I had recorded this video and something was wrong with the file, so now I'm re-recording it. So some of the materials I'm using, I've just written on, so I apologize for that. So first of all, question C is a great question because it's testing a few things. The big idea is monetary policy, but also how it connects with earlier concepts from Unit 1 regarding the production possibilities curve, and then also the aggregate economy with short-run and long-run aggregate supply. So let's get started. It says, assume that the country of Rankin Land is in a recession. You have to draw this on a production possibilities curve, assuming that Rankin Land only makes food and clothing. And we have to show their current output combination and label it A. So first of all, this is a great trip down memory lane. For this, you don't have any information to support whether or not the resources in Rankin Land are perfectly interchangeable or not. So if they were perfectly interchangeable, meaning that for every unit of clothing you make, you would sacrifice an equal unit of food, you could have a flat production possibilities curve. With resources where there's the law of increasing costs, we have the bowed out traditional production possibilities curve. I would wager that this is the most common answer because most clothing isn't made out of food and most food isn't made out of clothing, but stranger things have happened. Ultimately, what we're looking for is point A to be located as a floating point under the curve. So that is for part A. For part B, we're assuming that the Central Bank of Rankin Land pursues an expansionary monetary policy. Part 1, identify the open market operation that the central bank would use. First of all, open market operations is not synonymous with monetary policy. It's a type of monetary policy. So remember that there's 3 tools of monetary policy. There's open market operations, there's the reserve requirement, and then there's also interest rates. So this is assessing, do you understand that open market operations means that we're either going to buy or sell bonds? I like this question because you have a 50-50 shot if you know that it's the buying and selling of bonds. Expansionary monetary policy would be used during a recession. It makes sense. You want the economy to grow. So to expand the money supply, you would buy bonds because you want the money supply to be bigger. So for part B, number 1, you want to buy bonds. For part B, number 2, it says draw a correctly labeled graph of the money market and show the short-run effect of the expansionary monetary policy and the nominal interest rate. So all you have to do in part 2 is graph what you just explained in part 1 about buying bonds. So now we're going to show that on the graph. We're going to have our supply of money line shifting to the right to show a bigger money supply as a result of buying bonds. That's going to reduce nominal interest rates. We're going to put all of our labels in, and we're going to write a little caption on the side expressing that nominal interest rates are going to fall. I think that this is worth your time because that way somebody reading your work is not going to doubt what's happening. Every once in a while, I'll get a graph from kids and they won't put these arrows in and they won't put the labels in accordingly. And it's hard to tell what the new line is and what the original line is. So the directions say that you have to label all directional changes. So that's code for including your arrows. So just make sure you do that. But just as an insurance policy, give yourself a caption. The next part of the question says, assuming that there's no change to price level, what happens to the real interest rate as a result of the expansionary monetary policy explained? Well, real interest rate simply means that we've adjusted for any price level changes. So if there's no change in price level, the real interest rate equals the change in the nominal minus the change in price. So I've just put some numbers down here to make this more meaningful. Let's just pretend that nominal interest rates fell 2%. Don't be freaking out and thinking, where did she get the 2% from? Again, I'm just using numbers to make this more meaningful. So let's just pretend that interest rates fell by 2%. If prices stayed the same, -2 minus 0 equals -2. So the answer to part 3 would be that real interest rates also fall due to constant prices. Again, real anything equals the nominal minus the price level change. For part 4, we're now asked, using the answer from part 3 regarding the real interest rate, what will happen to real gross domestic product in the short run? Now, you did not have to graph this, but we graphed it here just to brainstorm what the answer would be. If real interest rates fall, aggregate demand is going to shift to the right because of increased interest-sensitive consumption. So as a result of that interest-sensitive consumption, aggregate demand is going to increase, and the answer would be that real GDP will increase due to the increased aggregate demand that resulted from the interest-sensitive consumption. This phrase, I underlined it here. This is a really important phrase to use in your answer. So ultimately, that's the answer to question C. Again, it's bringing together concepts from Unit 4 on monetary policy and combining them with earlier stuff with the PPC, but also some really important whole course concepts right here in part 4 with the aggregate demand, aggregate supply. So for a little question, it's quite robust.